Welcome to our webcast, everyone. We're so thankful that you were able to join us. My name is Brandy Meeks. I'm the Vice President of Operations with And Then There Were None. Over the next hour or so, we're going to be discussing some trending topics about the abortion industry, specifically fetal tissue research. Now, what I especially want you to keep in mind, as always, is while we're hearing from one person, so she's a former project manager who worked on research projects concerning the subject, but her experiences are not isolated ones. When you hear what she has to say, please remember that there are workers just like her, have very real stories to share as well, just like our founder and leader, Abby Johnson. In fact, And Then There Were None, we've helped over 500 workers leave the abortion industry, and they all have stories that are similar to what you're going to hear tonight. So some of the elements are the same, some of the resounding themes that you'll hear will sound familiar. So don't allow people to tell you that this is just one person's word against the abortion giants, okay? Again, there are over 500 other people who have also witnessed some of the things that we're about to discuss tonight. So this is the plan. As always, I'm going to do my best to make sure that we stay on time and wrap up in the next hour. We're going to do some intros here in just a little bit, then dive into some questions that we have. Send yours in. Make sure you send yours in. We'll do our best to get to it. This is also being recorded, and we'll be sharing that link later. That way, if you see something that you know that someone else needs to hear, you can share this video with them in the next few days. I also really want to stress that the things that we're going to be talking about tonight are difficult, as always, but if you are watching this and you are currently working in the abortion industry, please hear my heart that we're here to help you at And Then There Were None. We understand that you may have started this, you may have started working in the abortion industry believing that you were helping women, but that can also be your reason for leaving because you realize that you really do want to help women and the abortion industry is not doing that, especially once you hear some of the things that we're going to talk about this evening. So let me introduce you to someone who I'm very blessed to call my friend. Her name is Lori Kelly, and I'm going to read her bio to you and then we'll get started. So in April of 2016, Lori was hired as project manager of the Health Sciences Tissue Bank at the University of Pittsburgh. In this role, Lori became aware of a major undertaking by the university to become the tissue bank hub for fetal tissue obtained through abortions performed by the McGee Women's Hospital. These tissues would be used for research by universities all across the country, participating in the GUDMAP consortium. This project is funded by the federal government through a grant from the National Institute of Health. That's right, the federal government is paying for this. When Lori's conscience wouldn't let her participate in the procurement and disbursement of baby body parts, she quit her job and she came to And Then There Were None for help. She's now a whistleblower and she's not afraid to speak about the dirty science and truth surrounding the issue of fetal body parts. This is one of the ugly sides of the abortion industry no one wants you to know about, funded by your tax dollars. So Lori, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your courage. We are just really glad to be able to sit and have this conversation tonight. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me and thank you for this opportunity.
Awesome. We're just, again, my heart's so full just getting to visit with you because it takes a lot of courage to talk about some of these things, right? So would you mind just kind of going ahead and giving us just a little bit of your background to get started? I think it would be really nice for people to get to know a little bit about Lori.
Okay, I grew up in Ebensburg, Pennsylvania, which is in between Johnstown and Altoona. I attended Catholic school at Holy Name School for 7th and 8th grade, and I graduated from Bishop Carroll High School and went on to attend Seton Hill University, where I obtained a Bachelor of Science degree in biology.
Wow. So you are a very educated woman. So thank you for sharing a little bit about yourself. So tell me this, how did you, with your job as project manager, how did that involve abortions and were you aware that that was happening?
Well, when I accepted the position of project manager, I was so excited because I felt like I had finally landed in my dream job because in that position, it was bringing together all of my experience from all of the different research laboratories that I've worked at over the years. And in those research laboratories, we utilized tissue that was collected by the tissue bank. It was tissue collected from adult consenting patients from certain surgeries or procedures. So it was my understanding that the tissue bank collected tissue from adults and children in some cases from the Children's Hospital. It was my first week on the job when I was told about the GUDMAP project, and that is the Genitourinary Developmental Molecular Anatomy Project. And I came to find out that the project would involve the collection and disbursement of fetal body parts from abortions that were performed at McGee Women's Hospital.
Wow.
So when I accepted the position, I wasn't aware of it, and the rug was just kind of pulled out from under me at that point.
Right. So you're thinking this is all about adults, right?
Yes.
Maybe children in some situations, but definitely not aborted babies.
Right. And I had worked for the university since probably 1991. And I've recently found out that the fetal collection started around 2005 in the tissue bank.
Okay. So I'm sure this came as a huge shock to you. I know we've talked about your passion for research. Like you're still continuing that even today. You love the research side of it, right? And
Yes.
I can't imagine, you said like the rug being pulled out from underneath you, like how that felt to go from having like a dream job to realizing, oh my goodness, this is what's happening. I have to resign. So tell me a little bit about that. When did you, like, when was that moment for you? What did that look like?
It was devastating to find out about this project, and I have some personal things in my life that I'm not ready to really talk about right now that kind of influenced how I felt about that. And the time that I was in the tissue bank, I had a close family member pass away, and I attended his funeral, and that took me back to Holy Name Church. And I kind of reconnected with my faith at that point and really started talking to God about how I was going to handle this situation with my dream job. You know, I just couldn't up and quit a job. And, you know, I was asking him what I should do and trying to figure out how I was going to do it if I did leave the position.
Mm-hmm. Now, this was a federally grant-funded project, right?
Correct.
So tell us a little bit more about that.
The GUDMAP project is funded by the National Institutes of Health. Funding began in 2016, and it will run through 2020.
So this is still happening. This is still
yes.
happening under this current administration. Like this is still going on. Okay.
Yes, it's a 5-year grant. In 2016, the university received $600,000. In the university received $400,000, and the following year they received another $400,000. The monetary value for 2019 hasn't been posted yet, nor has the value for 2020.
Okay. Is there, how would you know something like that? Is there a website, or can you do your own research? How would the general public know that this is happening other than hearing it from someone like you who's been a part of it?
There's actually a website that the NIH has, and it is report.nih.gov/categorical-spending. And that will take you to a window where you can actually type in the term fetal, and that search will bring up all of the fetal research that's been funded by the NIH across the United States.
Would you mind reading that website one more time for people that might be scrambling to grab a pen at this point?
Sure.
Because I didn't even know that this existed before you and I were chatting about this, and I think people need to know how they can look this stuff up.
Okay, it's report.nih.gov/categorical-spending.
Okay, thank you. And just as a reminder, these are our tax dollars that are being used for this, right? For this grant.
Yes.
Okay. And right now it runs through 2020, and then
It could possibly be renewed after 2020.
and again, I think that's why it's so important for us to be aware that this is happening, right? So that
Yes.
we can raise the volume on awareness and put the pressure on the people, on the powers that be, to help them understand that this is not okay, right? This is not okay. Well, let's go back to the time that you're sitting in that first meeting, okay? And then kind of bring me through the progression until the time that you left. Can you share about your own personal progression during that time? What did that look like for you? Like, what were some of those experiences that you can share with us, just to give us a window into some of the stuff that you saw?
Okay, like I said, it was my first week on the job when I attended the first meeting where GUDMAP was even brought up. And that's when I realized that it was a fetal research project. We had so many other projects going on in the tissue bank at the time that I was able to kind of push that one to the back of my mind because I didn't want to deal with what was going on. A few weeks later, I believe the university received a letter from the NIH saying that the grant would be funded, and there was a catered lunch for us to celebrate. And I can remember sitting in that lunchroom, and they were bringing in the catered food, and on the bags it said GUDMAP. And I just looked around and thought, this is just surreal that we're sitting here celebrating a project where we're going to be collecting body parts from abortions and sending them to researchers all across the United States. How can we be celebrating something like this?
Yeah. And then did you ever, I mean, like, as that progressed, did you ever come across any other situations where it just kind of had a reality check, right, on what exactly was happening?
Sure. So after that catered lunch, we were waiting for the check to actually arrive. So again, I was able to push that project to the back of my mind. But then I believe it was in May or June, I attended a meeting at the NIH where we met with some of the researchers from the different universities across the US who would be requesting the tissue that they needed to use in their
So these were
research.
several universities, right? Like, this wasn't an
Yeah.
isolated situation. This is a systemic issue, right, across the country.
Right. The University of Pittsburgh was acting as the tissue hub. So we were collecting all of the specimens that the universities across the US would need for their research, because as I found out at the NIH meeting from some of those researchers, it's difficult to get fetal tissue, fetal body parts, and they were just overjoyed that the university was able to provide those tissues. I remember attending a dinner where we were celebrating the GUDMAP grant again, and I was speaking with researchers and kind of proudly telling them, yes, I can provide those tissues to you, and looking back at that, I got caught up in that and I feel very badly about it.
Understandable. I mean, it's again, it's one of those things that, like, when you're in the middle of it, it's hard to see, right? And now that
Right.
you're on the other side of it and you're healing, there's just so much
Yes.
hope to be found. And that's
Yeah.
what we're thankful for. And this is, again, so courageous of you to speak, because we need to raise awareness. And when we're talking about those universities, I specifically, because I'm getting ready to send a kiddo off to college, I'm thinking about, how are we preparing the next generation that is incredibly interested in research, right? Because that's what a lot of the universities are driving at right now. That's why, I mean, my kid, that's what he's interested in, research, because it feels like hands-on experience. He's going into chemical engineering. He wants to do something to make a difference, and that's what this generation is all about. They want to feel like they're making an impact. So my question for you is that, we have kids, either kids or grandkids, that are going off to school. You came from a pro-life Catholic background, how do we prepare our own kids as they're going off to universities to make sure that they're, you know, or they're going off with stars in their eyes about research? How do we prepare them to make sure that they don't get caught up in some of this as well? What advice would you give?
I would say that there is very good research and there is very questionable research. And I would encourage young people to get involved in research. It's, you know, it can cure diseases,
Mm-hmm.
but I would tell anyone going into research, or any young person going out into the world, to question things. If they hear a term they don't understand, ask someone to explain it to them. And if it doesn't feel right in their gut, if it doesn't feel right spiritually, to question it, that they're allowed to question things and assert their beliefs. We need a generation that will be able to do that.
Yeah, I love that. I think the questioning part is important because sometimes younger people feel like they shouldn't question older adults that are the experts on some of these matters, right? And so I think it's important.
Even older adults sometimes feel like they shouldn't question authority.
There you go.
You know,
There
I
you go.
found myself in that situation many times.
Right. And so we need to feel empowered and okay with, I mean, it's not about being rebellious and pushing back, but it is about just being knowledgeable, right? Just ask. I mean, if it's truly about education, then it's okay to ask questions. And
Exactly.
and so I think that that's probably something that I love what you're saying about asking questions, because I think that's something that we need to definitely empower them to do. So tell me, okay, so we talked a little bit about your progression through. Um, what did it look like when you were leaving? How did you come into contact with And Then There Were None? And what's that been like for you?
Well, when I found out about the fetal project, I Googled abortion to see how I might react to some images. And in that Google search, abortionworker.com came up, which is Abby's group, And Then There Were None. And I read over what the website had to say. I put it in the back of my mind that there was a group out there willing to help people leave the abortion industry, to help them financially, spiritually, and emotionally. So during my 3 months at the tissue bank, I always had that in the back of my mind. And eventually, when I decided to resign, uh, I actually CC'd Abby Johnson on my resignation letter.
You did not.
I did. Never having spoken to her or met with her, I CC'd her on my resignation
I
letter.
did not know that fact. I don't know how
Yeah,
I work for the organization. I did not know that piece. Like, that's a bold move, Lori. That's a bold move. That's amazing.
I
That's,
wanted the university to know that I was serious.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you definitely were. You were serious about a few things. You were serious about leaving. You were serious about finding some hope and healing for yourself, and serious about being able to talk about this so that other people can be aware of what's going on, because I just really don't think the general population knows. I don't think, I mean, I'm working in the movement day in and day out and didn't know to the extent that this is a federally funded program that is still in existence, right? Like, we
Well,
can't.
I had worked at the university for over 20 years, not knowing that McGee Women's Hospital performed abortions, and not knowing that the tissue bank started collecting fetal tissue in 2005.
Right.
And um, I had a meeting with the IT department, and this was a few weeks, maybe a week prior to my resignation. And this really pushed me over the edge as far as resigning. I met with the IT department and I was asked to help them develop a menu of pull down baby body parts for the researchers to choose from, to request for us to send to them.
Oh, so basically for them to be able to order what
Yes.
part they
Yes.
wanted.
And this tool, this website, was hidden behind very secure firewalls because the university didn't want anyone hacking into it or even knowing about it.
What was on that drop-down list?
Baby body parts,
Unbelievable.
liver, lungs, brain. Yes.
So they could take the pick of what it is that they were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Well, again, like that's your past life, right? So
Yes.
tell me what life has been like for you since you've resigned. Why do you think that is? Like what is it just, are they
It's a
talking about it?
secret. No, it's a secret. And when I was in the tissue bank, we were told to be very secretive about this project.
Tell me, I want to see that. I want to see that light back in your eyes. I can tell the difference, right? Whenever you're going back
Yeah.
there and
Okay.
you're talking about that stuff. So I can see the light coming back and the smile coming back across your face, because I can tell you feel so much better, right? Because that was a dark moment in your life. But
It was.
tell me
And
about what it's been like now.
thank God for, and then there were none. I mean, I wouldn't be able to be talking about this today if I hadn't gone through several healing retreats with all the other, we call ourselves the tribe,
Yeah.
with all my other tribe members. We all understand each other, and a lot of healing has gone on. And I'd like to thank Abby and all of the client managers, especially my client manager, Laura, and all of the people who support And Then There Were None. I know we have a prayer team out there, and when I have something difficult going on in my life, all I have to do is text my client manager or anyone involved with And Then There Were None, and I have those prayer warriors praying for whatever problem I'm having at the time.
We're
So I
honored to,
can't thank them enough.
yeah, and we're honored to do that for you. Like that's the greatest joy, is being able to watch your joy be restored. So, can you tell me, do you feel like there were moments where you can look back now and see where God protected you from some situations? Do you have any instances of that? I know you can see how he's moving now, but can you look back retrospectively and see those moments?
I really feel like he protected me while I was in the tissue bank for those short 3 months. My supervisor asked me one day to go to McGee Women's Hospital to view the products of conception, which we all know are the aborted parts of the baby. I went to McGee that day to our research laboratory. Um, I was very hesitant to do it. The schedule was running late, and I had to leave to attend another meeting or be somewhere else, and I didn't have to view the products of conception. And I was so relieved. And I really think God was protecting me that day, because I don't think I would have been able to handle that emotionally.
Yeah, I'm sure that would have stuck with you. So it is amazing to see God in those details, because sometimes he protects us from ourselves, you know? And that's a great example of that. Thank you for sharing. How, if you could sum up how leaving the abortion industry has affected your life, what would you say? What would you say to that?
That morning that I decided to resign my position, the connection that I felt to God was stronger than I've ever felt in my entire life. And that's something that I want to hold on to. Yeah, it's just strengthened my connection to God, and he's really put a lot of wonderful godly people in my life who are helping me listen to him and figure out how I can play a role in making abortion unthinkable.
I love it. And so share a little bit with me about the setting that you're in right now, because that really is a good segue to that, because there's this really cool thing that's happened because people are praying, not knowing the fruit that might come of it. And I just think that that's beautiful. Would you mind sharing with us?
Well, tonight I'm in the home of Meredith Parente, because I don't have an internet connection at my house, but also because Meredith started a project here in Pittsburgh called the McGee Project. Want to come over here, Meredith? And if you want to tell the people what the McGee Project is, that would be
Sure.
great.
First, I just want to say what a blessing it is to me to be with you all this evening. I'm sitting on the couch with a hero. Her courage is just so commendable. She, went through this terrible experience, but rather than just balling up in a ball in her bed and pulling the blankets over her head, she's chosen to make a difference with her story. And so I'm just really blessed to be here with her. The McGee Project was started in about 2014, 2015. McGee Women's Hospital does 500 to 700 abortions every year, and over half of those are in the second trimester. And we always suspected that they were harvesting baby parts, but Lori's testimony has just really confirmed that. But as she says, we were probably outside praying on that day that she was able to avoid having to see those products of conception. So when I first heard Lori's story, I thought, oh, wow, I really want to meet this woman, only to find out that we live really a fairly short distance from each other. And I know I fell in love with her at first sight. So I'm blessed to be here, blessed to be a part of her story.
And I actually met Meredith because of the 40 Days for Life campaign that I decided to participate in, which is probably something I never would have done if this terrible situation in the tissue bank hadn't happened. So once again, we can see that God is bringing something so good and so beautiful out of something that was so bad and traumatic for me.
Absolutely. Isn't that always the best story, right? Where God can use what the enemy intended for harm, right? And can use it for good.
Yes.
So what would you say to someone else? And thanks, Meredith. Thank you for popping in too, by the way. And thanks for letting us use your home tonight. But Lori, what would you say to someone else that might be out there right now that is watching this and is in a similar situation or is finding that this feels very familiar to them, right? What would you say to them to encourage them to make a decision on next steps, what to do now?
I would tell them that I know what you're feeling. I know the turmoil going on inside of you, and that you should follow your gut and your conscience and turn your fear over to God and reach out to Abby's group, And Then There Were None. And I promise you that Abby will help you leave the industry. Abby helped me leave my job, And Then There Were None helped me with my resume. They helped me find another job. They helped me financially since I was out of work, and they have provided unlimited spiritual and emotional support to me since the first time I spoke to someone when I decided to resign from that position. So if you're out there considering leaving your position in the abortion industry, I encourage you to do it. Life on the other side is so much better. And I would love to meet you someday if you do decide to leave the abortion industry.
That's awesome. And Lori means it with her whole heart too, right? This woman is an encourager. She's a fighter. She's courageous. And she's also a really good friend to others. So I thank you for encouraging other people to take that next step. Just knowing that they're not alone is a huge part of it, because I'm sure while you were there was probably some isolation that you were feeling, right? Because you probably didn't know who to trust, who you could talk to about these things. I'm sure that there were situations that you didn't know where to go with the information and the things that you had seen that day. So, okay, well, I haven't seen a lot more questions that are coming in right now. So, Lori, is there anything else that you want to add, or anything about the research part of it or the grant itself that may be shocking to people, or things that they aren't aware of? Anything from information about approval of the grant or the process or the way it looked or anything like that?
I would just encourage people to go to the NIH website that I gave them to see if universities in their area are involved in this type of research, and if they are, to speak up about it and ask questions. Once again, we come back to that. It's important to ask questions.
Excellent. And do you have any idea how many universities, like, are we talking like a handful or dozens? Any idea off the top of your head?
I glanced at the website before we came on tonight, and I would say there are more than a dozen.
Okay.
Yes.
So there's a good chance that there's one. If it's not in your state, it's in a neighboring state. So we need to be aware. Always good to be knowledgeable about what is going on in your area. Again, this is one of those things that has kind of gone unnoticed, mainly because a lot of people aren't talking about this side of it, and because, like you said, it's being done in secret, right?
Yes.
But I learned a long time ago, if things are being done in secret, then probably shouldn't be being done, right?
Exactly. Yes.
And so this is a great way for us to be able to be knowledgeable and expose the secret. Doesn't mean that that we have to vilify the people that are doing it, right? Because we need to be able to love them out, but it is important for us to be knowledgeable about what is going on behind closed doors. And when we're knowledgeable, then we have the circle of influence that we're able to share that with. So Lori, I just really appreciate you coming on and sharing this with us tonight. I think I was sharing with you earlier, you have such a unique perspective because you're kind of you're not, you're unique in the fact that we have a lot of workers that come straight out of the abortion clinics, and you have a story that matches all the secrecy and everything else, right? Of everything that they are saying that they're experiencing inside the clinics, but you're seeing it on the research side as well.
Yes.
So I think that hearing that just helps validate the stories that are being told, right? All over.
I was in a position that I wasn't proud of. I wasn't proud of the work that we were doing. And in my entire research career, that's something that was very important to me, that I was doing work that could possibly be helping people. And the position I found myself in, I just realized I'm hurting people now. And to be able to get out of that with the help of And Then There Were None was incredible. And to any abortion industry workers out there who are listening, if you're not proud of what you're doing, you can leave the industry and find healing and a group of people that will love you unconditionally.
I don't even know how to follow that up. I mean, I feel like you just wrapped it up for me. I do have a couple questions just as we're wrapping up. When you were there and you were talking about being involved in something you weren't proud of, did your circle know what you were doing? Did you talk with anybody?
I talked with my office mate, and he was Catholic as well, and he had reservations about what we were doing. And at one point, he and I just said that we wouldn't think about what we were actually doing and just try to do the job.
I think that's telling, right? Whenever you can't think through it, you've just got to put that to the side and just head down and get it done.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we will be praying for the people that are still involved in facilitation of this grant. We need to be praying them out. I am sure that you have a team of people there that have prayed for you, that are still praying for these individuals. But we ask everyone who's watching just to join us. Join us in that prayer to be able to pray the people out, because if there is no one that will do this job, then this grant can't continue. And so if we have people that are bailing out left and right, then what better way to be able to put an end to this? And so when this grant does come up for renewal, there's no one left to do this work. So that's what we'll be praying for. So as we close tonight, if you're sitting there and you're thinking, man, I really want to be able to do more, please know that you can go to our website, abortionworker.com, click on the donate tab and make a donation to be able to help us rescue more abortion industry workers and help them find the hope and the healing that their hearts so desperately crave. Even if they don't know it, when they're in the middle of it, they recognize that there's something that they need. And we hope that they can find us, right? And so with your help, they'll be able to do that. Then also, if you want to stay connected with the organization, you can get texts from Abby. I'm always talking about this, but you can text NONE, N-O-N-E, to 53445, and you can be in regular communication with Abby. She'll keep you up to date on some specific situations if we have workers leaving, or if we need prayers for a specific clinic or project, or just sometimes to keep you up to date on some of the events that we have coming up. So again, thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Just continue to pray, continue to love on people, and don't give up hope, because people like Lori are out there and are watching and are waiting for their moment to be able to be courageous like this. So we're just so grateful for your time tonight, Lori, and we just thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Hope you have a great night and a happy Thanksgiving. Again, we're so thankful for all of you for being a part of our team, and then there were none, and we will see you again very soon. Take care.